Last Count Corla, and can I just commend Deputy Gino Kenny for his leadership on this critically important social issue in our society. And it is depressing, to be honest, the lack of leadership, the lack of courage of the government that yet again they want to kick a key issue of social change and just recognising social reality down the road yet again, instead of doing the right thing. And particularly now when you have the Citizens' Assembly having made the recommendations. I mean, while the wider issue, and we're very clear about this and straight up, we believe in the legalisation of drugs and the regulation of them. Because we think criminalisation has failed, and failed disastrously. Disastrously. It has done far more damage to our society than would legalising and regulating it properly. And it's doing it every single day. It is criminalising huge numbers of young people, effectively whole generations of young people, doing particular damage, that criminalisation, to some of the poorest and most deprived communities, to people who are medically vulnerable, people with mental health issues and so on. It is doing extraordinary damage. And critically, it has spawned a massive violent criminal underground that is a direct result of criminalisation. I mean, it is so obvious to me that if you criminalise something that huge numbers of our population do, whether you like that thing or not, then at a stroke, all of those people become criminals. Some of them will end up in prison, in court, enormous amount of police resources, of court resources, but even those who don't end up in court are operating in a criminal underworld, vulnerable to the criminals that run it and all that goes with that. And I mean, I don't know what the government are going to say in response to this. No doubt they will say that there, can be negative consequences of drug use, addiction, impacts on mental health, and so on. And I don't claim to be an expert, but I don't think there is a single thing that you could say about the adverse negative impact of cannabis use that you couldn't say 10 times over about alcohol use, which does far more damage to our society. Far more damage. But it would be a foolish government indeed who thought the answer to the problems with alcohol abuse, the violence, the domestic abuse, the addiction, who would say, let's criminalise it. Because of course that was tried and it was a disaster. It led directly to the growth of the mafia and the criminal underworld in the United States, for which the United States is still paying a very, very bitter price. Indeed, it glamorises, effectively, I mean, whatever you may think about it, it glamorises drug use as being part of a sort of mysterious criminal underworld. It is directly counterproductive. Even if your objective is to reduce drug use, and certainly all of us have the objective of reducing drug harm and addiction, it is directly counterproductive. It makes the situation far worse. It stigmatizes people. It leaves people with criminal records that impact on the rest of their life in many cases, limits their life choices, and so on. And indeed, you could say many of the same things about prescription drugs, which are regulated. So it makes no sense whatsoever. And the government should cop on and show a bit of moral leadership and political leadership and allow this very, very modest bill. But we hope we can also open up that wider debate. The strategy of criminalisation and the strategy, frankly, of political cowardice has been a disastrous failure, and working class areas in particular, although not exclusively, have paid a bitter price for the criminalisation approach that this government and previous governments have followed. It has to end. The government has to wake up to reality.